All aboard! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, baseball fans, well, ages 9 beats Mikey, you have now arrived in my train of thought. It's time to talk about the Power Rankings as we are finally in the month of June. Now, for those interested in my predictions for the Stanley Cup final and the NBA finals, I put them in a video yesterday. It's obviously on this channel, so you can check all that out for both of those respective series and those two eventual new champions. Anyway, let's get right to business in baseball, and let's talk about the Eurostar Zombie Tier as always. Detroit, a disastrous month. No team had a worse month in baseball than the Tigers did, and this is not just with the wins-loss record, even though, in their case, they did have the worst record in the game in June at only 6-22. That's even worse than Rockies' bad, which is saying something. They also lost Tarek Skubal this month. It was a miserable time. Now, we can honestly say that this month has already started out better than the previous one did, as Minnesota actually won a game in the month of June. That's saying something, that some teams can't say that yet. It took pretty much every single pitch to do it because the Tampa Bay Rays closed in on them, but they were able to survive. And this is already a better starting month than the previous one for the Tigers. 3 home runs, though, in successive fashion. That'll always help. Speaking of Colorado, you're next. 3 of 4. That's where the Rockies are right now, actually. 3 wins in their last 4 games. It's quite a thing. Now, because Rockies, no win is ever easy for them because their pitching is awful, mostly. But yeah, it actually went down like this. Take last night, for example, where the Rockies jumped on the Angels. A grand slam was hit. Everything was cool. And then the Rockies pitching decided to be, the Rockies pitching, and the game was tied. Hunter Goodman said that's enough of that, and then the lead was back up to 2 for Colorado. And then Rockies pitching said hi again, and I kind of figured as this game, I was watching the latter half of this game, the Rockies were going to lose this lead at some point. I felt inevitable because Rockies. Jorge Soler decided to say, yeah, bet, this is going to happen this way, and he hits a triple. Yes, he hit a triple of all people. Tie game going to the 9th inning. And then Colorado won this game somehow. It's true. Kind of wild. Anyway, the Rockies win the game, survive in advance, even though the very last play of the game was a double play, and it should not have been a double play. It felt like the last runner for the Angels was safe, and the Angels got absolutely robbed on replay. It was quite wild. Anyway, Rockies-Angels is going on this week in Anaheim, and it is living up to the hype of being disastrously, hilariously entertaining baseball. Speaking of the Angels, you're next. Series saved Buffet. This happened on Sunday, where Siri, who's a left fielder for the Angels, made a spectacular catch. He robbed the Rays of a grand slam, and over the fence, as you can see here, was a very nice spread. It was a very nice spread of food over that small fence in Tampa Bay at the Trop. It was quite wild. So the next night, the baseball gods must have seen this, and clearly they did, and they said, you know what, we're going to reward Siri. And he hits a grand slam in said Rockies game. That helped get out to this whole lead thing that the Angels had and then blew and then had and had to come back and did come back and then lost. It was quite a game. The point of it is Siri got rewarded by the baseball gods for saving a bunch of food. You love to see it. Anyway, the Angels are still bad, but we already know this. San Francisco, another devastating walk-off. So on a night, Friday night to be exact, of wild, insane walk-off home runs. There were several of them scattered around baseball, the last of which chronologically happened in Denver, because of course it did. And as we know, no lead is safe at Coors Field. It went like this. The Giants, whom I mentioned last week, got their souls taken on the Monday game in Arizona where Ketel Marte tried to hit a ball to the moon and almost succeeded, and the Giants broadcaster was an empty vessel. It was not great. He did not have a good time. And I used to love his calls. I usually do. He's great on the microphone. Anyway, the Rockies and Giants played a series. The Rockies won the series 2 out of 3, by the way. And the Giants were up 6-3 in the 9th inning after getting some insurance runs. Everything was looking good. All the Giants have to do is get 3 outs, and they're good to go. But as we know, no lead is safe ever at Coors Field. It went like this. So the Rockies went to work in the bottom of the 9th inning. There is a review requested on a Hunter Goodman home run, because Hunter Goodman does a lot of good things for Colorado. But it turned out to be a 3-run homer to tie the game at 6, which is not great. Not great for the Giants at all. It was pretty bad, and it got worse. And we got Tovar, who actually homered in the 8th inning, and everything was looking good. It was a 4-3 game before the Giants added set insurance runs. Tovar said, "Bet, I call game. I hit a ball over the left field fence," and the Giants lose again off a devastating walk-off. Now, whatever pent-up rage and frustration they might have had over the course of this season, because the Giants have been miserable for a lot of this year, they promptly took it out on Colorado on Sunday as they nearly hung a 20-piece. They hung 19, exactly. It was quite a thing. And the Giants' miserable season continues. Nothing has worked. Matt Chapman's been bad. All of it's been pretty brutal. You'll get the occasional blip of hope from Rafi Devers or Chapman, or the grand slams that Harrison Bader hit in the span of a week. Yeah, you'll get that. And you'll get what just happened here, and then the inevitable beatdown that the Brewers are probably going to put on them for the majority of the week. I guess you'll see what happens there with San Francisco. Kansas City, June, better than May. The Royals' June has already started out pretty well, because they actually won a game in June, beating the Reds 9-2 yesterday. Good. Unfortunately, May happened, and May can't be excluded because they don't seem to do that. And Kansas City's May was an abject disaster. The only 3 teams worse than them in May, in terms of record, I've already mentioned. The Angels, surprisingly, aren't one of the 3. They're tied with the Giants at 10-18, and then the Rockies went 8-20, and I already mentioned the Tigers. So the point of it for Kansas City, it was a disastrous month, despite the fact that their main regulars are actually doing a respectable job. Bobby Witt had a good month, and Salvi Perez was solid, and the pass squad was okay. Things were okay in May for Kansas City, at least for their main guys. It just doesn't seem like they got enough from anyone else. That's unfortunate. But June's already better. You're 1-0 this month. Good. Let's see if you can keep it going against the Reds, who got their own issues to deal with, despite how well they played. Boston, Brown and Bats. Yes, the Red Sox kind of took out their pent-up frustration on the Guardians. It was quite fortunate for them. They did a very good job winning 2 of 3 in Cleveland. They've had a pretty brutal month, 2 months of the season, but at least over the weekend it looked okay. I don't know what they'll do going forward here, Boston-wise. Will they be sellers? We will see. They got an interesting series coming up with the Orioles, which should be interesting if Boston can actually show this consistent hitting some more. That'll be good. But why Brown? Well, that's easy. A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown's long await of getting out of Philly is finally done. He will be going to the Patriots, and the return, to be honest, is kind of small. A 1 in 2028 and a 5 in 2027. That's a pretty small return. But then again, everybody knew he wanted to get out of Philly, and he wanted to be traded and get away from Jalen Hurts. New England's finally got a number 1 receiver to go for Drake May. And in theory, the Patriots, who just made their Super Bowl run, should be better, at least roster-wise, right? Even though that schedule is going to be far harder than the Fugazi one they played last year, which was the weakest schedule in 25 years. A city that the Patriots will be going to later this year, Miami, a lonely number. The Marlins had a brutal week. It was a disaster where just when we thought that the Marlins could have some sort of momentum and get things back on track or stay afloat in the NL East, no, they submerged. So the Marlins week was pretty bad. They got swept by the Mets and lost 2 of 3 to Toronto, the latter being okay even though it happened first. But why the number 1? Well, it's simple. In the Marlins' losses, in 4 of the 5 I just mentioned, they scored exactly 1 run. The one time they didn't was the one time where they got to extra innings and they gave up a walk-off home run. So 1 pitch was the deciding factor in that particular game. The Marlins really didn't show up in either of the other 2 games up in Queens against the Mets as they celebrated the Hall of Fame weekend with Bobby Valentine and company. And the grand slam by Juan Soto, the damage was already done by then. The point of it is, the Marlins pretty much gave back all the momentum they would have gained after sweeping the Mets last week and basically gave it back in spades. It was quite unfortunate. There's a reason why the Mets aren't in this tier. The Mets, however, do start off the UK Pacer Monkey's Paw tier. repaid Marlins. Like I just mentioned, the Mets put on a beatdown and swept Miami out of Queens. It was actually a pretty solid performance, and it's the third of 4 straight solid performances that the Mets had recently. They looked miserable against the Reds, at least the first 2 games of that series. McClain looked terrible in the first game, and they had nothing for Chase Burns. Well, then again, most teams have not had anything for Chase Burns. We understood that. And though they did win the third game, it seemed like after that, they flipped a switch or something over the last week or so to wrap out this homestand. And obviously, the aforementioned sweep of the Marlins. Juan Soto has played pretty well this year, pretty much, since he's been healthy. The kids have all played well, especially Ewing and Bench. They've played fairly well for the Mets as well, and they may get Francisco Alvarez back before the month ends, which is impressive on his part, because he might potentially be Wolverine. I don't know. But then there's the challenge that the Mets are going to have here. They go out to the West Coast one last time this season and go to San Diego and Seattle. Last night, a fun game, just not for the Mets. It did not end well. There were 4 hits through 7 innings. All of them were solo home runs. And then we get to the 8th, and things kind of dialed down a little bit. But ultimately, the Mets could do nothing else, and Seattle ended up handling business and winning in extras. The stolen base by Randy Arozarena kind of helped matters in this situation. While we were sleeping, Randy Arozarena was stealing, and then a walk-off hit, and then we're done here. Seattle gets it done. More on Seattle later. The point about this for the Mets is simple. Can they keep up this momentum? Because they've had a hot week and a cold week, recently, since that long losing streak they had. Are the Mets capable of keeping up this momentum? Minnesota ended with thud. That's what I would describe this month for the Twins. And they were the victims of the walk-offs that happened on Friday night. They were another victim, as they went to Pittsburgh and had a 3-game series with the Pirates. Unfortunately, they went 0-3 in said games. The first of which, one they probably should have won, and they gave up the walk-off home run to Brian Reynolds, and it was one of those where, yeah, you kind of know what time it is when Reynolds hits it. The Pirates were down to the last out, and then Reynolds hit that out over the left field fence. Game over. We're done here. Braves, Jolly Rogers, all that good stuff they did do out in Pittsburgh. There were fireworks played. They seem to enjoy things out in Pittsburgh, the smaller, simple things. In any event, the Twins take that L, and then they take another 1-run L the following day, losing 10-9, and then they take another L in Pittsburgh. This one a little bit more decisive. And this month for Minnesota, which looked promising, ended with a very drastic thud after losing this series 3-0 to the Pirates, and then losing 3 of 4 to the White Sox that preceded it. It was not great. Now this month, like for the Royals, has started out already better than the last one ended, so which is good because they beat said White Sox. All right, let's see what you can do in the other 2 games against Chicago on the in Minneapolis this time, because that series was in Chicago when they lost 3 of 4 recently. Houston, a winning month. Believe it or not, the Astros indeed had a record that was pretty good. They were somewhat respectable down the stretch in May, which is saying something considering how bad this month started and how bad their pitching looked. It's looked a little bit better lately. I will give them credit. They're 15-14 May. Okay, not bad. It actually puts them in the upper half of baseball. Good on you, good on you, Houston, for tying the Blue Jays, by the way, in this realm. Good on you. I don't know how long you can keep this up. I don't know if your pitching can round into a little bit more form. If so, then Yordan Alvarez is probably going to win MVP because of the way he's been hitting all year. But in the meantime, between time, good job, Houston, for getting somewhat back on track. I still don't trust you, but at least you're in a division where as long as no one gets absurdly hot, you might have a shot. Foreshadowing. Baltimore, nice race sweep. Where did that come from? An Orioles team that has been pretty sluggish for a lot of the season, both with the bats and with the arms. Sans Colton Cowser, who's been absurd with the clutch hits. They somehow pulled out a sweep against the Tampa Bay Rays, whom that's a little concerning on Tampa's part. But for Baltimore, it seems like they are never shook when it comes to a late game situation. And there's a Blue Jays game to prove it. For example, they played Toronto over the weekend. It was a Saturday game, and this was not of the walk-off home run variety, but it was certainly a walk-off. They were losing, and it was not a great run. It was 5-1. Things were looking pretty bad going into the bottom of the ninth inning at Camden Yards. Except for the Orioles thinking, okay, there's 27 outs. We can still make this happen. Baltimore then went to work. And, of course, Corton Kaiser is going to be involved in this because he always seems to be. He had a clutch. We scored a run in this inning, and it was the tying run, I should say. He scored an Atlee Rutschman who had a walk. There were a lot of walks by the Toronto pitchers. Jeff Hoffman, my goodness, what happened here? And this was a pretty disastrous inning for the Blue Jays, and the Orioles basically steal the game with the Alonso walk-off hit as he singled in Ward and gets the job done for Baltimore. They go 5 runs in the ninth inning, and Toronto loses the game they had no business losing. And if they missed the playoffs by a game or two, you see why. This was a pretty brutal performance on their part. Baltimore did find a way to get that sweep in and actually do fairly well against Toronto as well over the weekend, winning 2 of 3, actually splitting with them. So still fine, 5-2 week. Good on you, Baltimore. Keep this momentum up against Boston if you can. Texas, DeGrom gets 100. It's a little surprising to me considering how great Jacob DeGrom has been over his career. But the fact that he's just now getting to 100 wins is actually insane. And also speaks to the criminal amount of roster management by the New York Mets, who somehow, some way, had the best pitcher in baseball for like 4 or 5 years and could get him no run support and could get him no help. That is criminal misuse of a roster by the Mets. Anyway, Jacob DeGrom and the Rangers took care of business last night against the Cardinals. And of course, it wasn't that much run support, because what's a Jacob DeGrom game without much run support? Nolan McLean, I understand. I think you are understanding the pain now. The point of it is, for Texas, they at least got this job done. And for the Rangers' sake, it's been a bit of a wonky week, I guess you could argue, for the case of Texas. They did win 2 of 3, Kansas City, fine. They got no hit by the Astros, as I mentioned last Monday, and lost 3 of 4 to Houston. It was not great. They lost, I think, that boot trophy that they had down there to the Astros because they had the 2 series already. Not a great run of form, a bit of a weird week. At least you got the series win against Kansas City, which you needed badly after that Astros series loss, and especially getting no hit by that staff. Yikes. Anyway, it's at least this month starts out a little bit better for you than the last one ended. At least there's that on your part. Toronto, interesting week. So for the Blue Jays, yes, the Orioles loss where you basically gave one away is pretty rough. Okay, no question, fine. But where I'm going here with the Blue Jays is not what happened, it's what's about to happen. Where you run it back with the Orioles on the weekend. Okay, fine. But you also have 3 games in Atlanta against the best team in baseball. See where you stack up against a Braves team that seems very content on destroying everyone's hopes and dreams. They're evil like that. It's rather unfortunate. And they're also healthy this time. And Sacramento, about that pitching. Yeah, they got bombarded. This was an ugly week for the Sacramento A's, as the Mariners and the Yankees both came to that minor league ballpark and basically treated it as such. It was a brutal week for that team. They did get one of the Yankee games, and even then, it came down to the last pitch because the Yankees had the tying run at the plate when it happened. It was a pretty, and really, they only won that game because of some horrible mismanagement by Aaron Boone, who decided to foolishly leave a pitcher in, and then he gives up a bomb the next at bat, and then that's effectively the last pitch he threw, and that was the game, effectively. It was not a good decision by Aaron Boone, and his mismanagement came back to bite the Yankees once again. Other than that, Sacramento went 0-4, and they got absolutely smashed by the suddenly hot Seattle Mariners and the Yankees, who have real bats as well. For proof on this, what happened in that second inning on Sunday was absolutely absurd, where they did more in that inning than what most Met teams seem to do in a particular month or so. It was a couple weeks even. They put up 13 runs on this A's pitching staff, and all of them came in the third inning. Yeah, I think you can see where I'm going with this. The point of this for the A's was that it was a miserable week, and they got bombarded in most games. I still trust this offense. I always will trust this offense. It's this pitching. Can you get it right? And can you get guys to come in to get it right? From the most northern California team to the California Zephyr playoff tier. Arizona, competition gets harder. As I mentioned last week, the Diamondbacks were able to feast on the Giants and the Rockies and double tap the Zombies. Good on you. They did what they should have done, which was destroy them. Wise decision. I will respect that. But then the competition gets a little more stiff. For example, the good news is they went to Seattle. The bad news is they got swept by Seattle. I don't recommend that. And then to add more to this, they play the Dodgers. Now, fortunately for them, they actually beat the Dodgers last night. They've got 3 more against said Dodgers, and then the Nationals, who only have the best offense in baseball, which should be a really fun series between those two teams, because Arizona can get their bats right against the Nationals against teams from time to time. And obviously the Nationals pitching is awful. Anyway, good on the Diamondbacks to come back swinging last night and take care of business against the Dodgers. Good on the Diamondbacks for that. But can they keep this momentum going? Chicago Cubs, kind of midweek. The good news is the streak is over. The bad news is you didn't win a series, and you've still gone a few weeks without winning one. Let's explain here. They did go to Pittsburgh, and things looked really, really bad, especially after the second game where they got obliterated by the Pirates. And losing 10 straight, and lots of Cubs haters came out of the woodwork and were celebrating this revelation that the Cubs are maybe kind of mid. They were in last place at this time, and things were looking real bad for Chicago. And then Chicago got up off the mat and decided, you know what, we're going to win 3 of our next 4 games. They took care of business for the latter 2 games in Pittsburgh and then handled the Saturday game in St. Louis. They got beaten over the head by Cardinals with bats. On the Friday game, it was not great. Lots of home runs were hit by St. Louis. Cubs fans did not like it. It was no bueno. Then the Sunday game happened, and they pretty much got clamped up by the Cardinals pitching. It was also not a great performance by Chicago's offense. PCA has heard overrated chants for a while now. He decided to homer after one of them and save the Saturday game with a nice diving catch. This was the Saturday game where he was called overrated and then hit a bomb. And then he made a great sliding catch, or diving catch to end the game and the Cardinal rally in the 9th. Good stuff there. Still, this is just a meh kind of week by the Cubs. I expect them to get better. I expect them to recover from this and kind of be pretty good as opposed to outright awesome or outright awful. But this was just a meh kind of week, to be honest. Seattle, surging and fast. And the fact that they're doing this with minimal Cal Raleigh stuff is incredibly impressive. The bats are hitting, which we kind of expected considering how good that offense can be as high-end as it is. With Rosarena and Naylor, who homered last night, and Julio Rodriguez and company, you expect the bats to be very good. The pitching is also rounding into shape, and that's not good for anyone else because everybody knows Seattle's pitching is legitimately real. And one of the best closers in the game in Munoz, who basically locked down the Mets when he had to last night, coming in relief. Seattle's won 7 straight, and they've looked really good in this 7 straight win streak. And now all of a sudden, them versus the A's is looking like a real competition for the AL West. And those teams are looking like the only 2 teams in play for said division. Well, that is if the A's can actually get some pitching. Cincinnati, LA's hanging. This is concerning. The Reds are a pretty decent team. As I've mentioned many times, they got real bats. They do what they should do when it comes to taking advantage of mistakes over the plate. They hit them out. Good on you. They don't hit for average much, but one guy that does is Elly De La Cruz. And their best player and top, I would say, 25 to 30 player in the game. And I think I'm being a little stingy on that. He probably is top 15-ish. De La Cruz has had a great season thus far, but unfortunately, he's got a hamstring injury. Now, it's said that it's between grades 1 and 2. We'll see how long he'll be out for, at least on the IL short term. That's not great for a Reds team that obviously thrives off De La Cruz and Stewart, who's had a great season so far. Sal Stewart has had a great season thus far. It's a real concern losing your very best player. They then promptly lose to the Royals last night, and their offense really didn't show up in said Royals game. Not great. Here's some food for thought about the Reds and where they are. They're 30-29, which is a pretty good record, except for the fact that you're last in the NL Central, the best division in baseball. For more on how wild this is and how lopsided the National League is compared to the American League, they would be a game behind Seattle for first in the AL West if they were magically in, we'll say, Portland as opposed to Cincinnati. Yeah, and by Portland, I mean obviously Oregon. That's kind of a wild circumstance that the Reds are unfortunately in. Somebody's got to be last in a really good NL Central. Unfortunately, right now, it's you guys. You may get out of this. San Diego, cooked by East. The Padres had a series of events, well, two series really, against two National League East teams that have good bats. One of which was against the Phillies at home, and they got swept. It was not great for them, and they ran into Christopher Sanchez still in pitching in God mode, Kyle Schwarber still hitting in God mode, and hitting baseballs over the heads of Nick Castellanos. More on him in a sec. Then they came back east and actually played the Nationals. The good news is they did get a win in that particular series. The bad news is they lost the other two games, which is not great. But there is other breaking news to know about with this team. Fernando Tatis is off the schneid. He homered on Saturday. Much rejoicing was had, despite the fact they lost that game. Much rejoicing was had. And unfortunately for San Diego, or maybe fortunately, they come here to play the Phillies, which has not been great for them. They have not done well over the last few years against the Phillies in any series, no matter how important it is. But it may be important for Nick Castellanos, who makes his return to Citizens Bank Park after becoming maybe the most hated athlete in the city for the last couple years. He was incredibly clutch as a Philly. There's no questioning that. He had big hits, walk-off hits, several of them over the years. He had the walk-off hit in 24 in the playoff series against the Mets. He's had several walk-off hits in between this in 24 and 25 especially. He actually made the catch that won the pennant against the Padres in 22 and several sliding catches that saved games and jump-started games for the Phillies during a World Series run that he was on. He made some very clutch plays. There's no question in that. But it's just the demeanor, I think, was the big thing that a lot of people just did not like. And the fact he swung at first pitch is a lie. He does tend to do that. I don't mind Nick Castellanos. I don't hate on him. I really don't. I think he's a fine player. I just don't think mentality-wise he was just fit for the city. And I think he'll come back. He'll probably get a mixed reaction. He didn't really do anything super egregious. There's nothing like truly hate him over. Like, he's not JD Drew level bad. He's not Scott Rowland level bad before the beef was squashed. Like, it's not that bad. It's bad enough where it's like, okay, everyone's happy to see him go, but it's not like, okay, he's going to get a rousing ovation. He's not going to be hailed in the city like Rhys Hoskins is, or other former Phillies of the core that won the title in 08. Like, he's not hailed like that. So he'll get a mixed reaction, I think, tonight and throughout this series as the Padres come to town and have to deal with the Phillies again. Speaking of the Phillies, they're next. Mattingly playing chess. Now, the Padres sweep was great. Good stuff there. Brandon Marsh had some issues with some mildew. Like, it's been a bit of a flu bug a little bit with this team. Kyle Schwarber had it. Now Marshy had it. And unfortunately, it's Harper had it for a day or two. Like, it's been a little bit of rough patch over the last week or so. It's kind of contained, which is good. Marsh also had an injury during the Padre game, but it was short term. He came back. And one interesting series of events, and this is where the 3 words or less comes in for Mattingly, was the game against the Dodgers on Saturday. And the Phillies were losing in said game. They were down 3-1. Things were not looking great. Harper gets it back to 3-2. And then Brandon Marsh gets taken out of the game from Mundo Sosa. Now, this was happening. He took Sosa out on the previous AB where the Phillies had action on bases. Bases were loaded and Sosa couldn't do anything. And Mundo said that's enough of that and decided to hit a bomb over the left field wall. It's the go-ahead 2-run homer. The Phillies nail it down 4-3. Orion Kerkering gets a win at Dodger Stadium, which I'm very glad he was able to get. He did give up a run in the inning in question, but he got the win, which, okay, I can live with that. It was generally fine in the game against the Dodgers that he pitched in. Good. I need him to face that ghost. I'm okay with that. Johan Duran, in the one inning he pitched in the series, basically pretty much locked it down, and he faced Ohtani and company and handled his. Great on you. Phillies did lose 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. Okay, fine. But then again, a lot of teams do that. So, all right, it happens. The Phillies have had a very good month. They've had a tremendous month. We'll see if they can keep this going as June starts. And generally, we know what time it is when Kyle Schwarber hits June. Pittsburgh, stable month. Got to give the Pirates credit, where Pittsburgh had a respectable month of form. Obviously, the twin sweep I just mentioned. Good on you for sweeping Minnesota. Yes, Libby Dunn got Wiggum last week. We all laughed. We all saw it. Unfortunately, she didn't text me, but yeah, it was pretty good. 16 and 12 month of May, and we'll see what Pittsburgh can do going forward in keeping this up. They're still third in what's an absurdly great division after the split with the Cubs and sweep of the Twins. And somehow they're 5.5 back because of what Milwaukee's been doing. It's quite wild. They go face a suddenly getting hot Astros team. That should be a pretty intriguing series before facing the Braves. Pittsburgh, what are you? Are you capable of staying in this playoff race? Or are you just a nice story that happens to have Paul Skeens and Connor Griffin and O'Neill Cruz and a couple other nice pieces that tend to know what they're doing with bats for once, as opposed to last year where they did not know what to do with their bats. It was insane. And Washington, Pittsburgh, but East. I have similar questions about the Nats. And yes, they did win both series over the last week. 2 of 3 to the Guardians, 2 of 3 to the Padres. Okay, cool. That's fine. And good stuff here. I still wonder about this pitching. I still wonder about it because at a moment's notice, that pitching can go from pretty bad to downright awful in batting practice. We've seen it happen time after time after time. One time being last night, where everything was looking good. They had a chance to come back and win the game against Miami. And then the Marlins decided to snap and kind of get over the whole losing to the Mets thing. Stowers hit a bomb, and it was not great by the Nats pitching because their pitching is downright awful and still amongst the worst in baseball. Now, fortunately, their offense is awesome. This offense is legitimately great and will keep them in most games, except when they play pretty decent pitching. And if that's the case, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Hicks and Stowers homering in the 9th inning to pretty much put the game on ice. Not great. I do think Washington will be an interesting story, but unless they get some sort of ace, they are probably going to be one of those 83-win teams that miss the playoffs, but look promising while doing it. And now we're going to go to the VSOE title tier. St. Louis, not quite ready. Yes, they did win the series against the Cubs. Good on you. But then they faced a team that I have not mentioned yet in the form of Milwaukee and got put in their place. They got promptly swept and looked kind of just out of their depths while doing it. The Brewers, by mix of their own version of devil magic, by mix of just really smart, sound baseball, did their thing and just swept the Cardinals to the side. Again, good on you, St. Louis, for beating your ops in Chicago and winning 2 of 3 and the tarps off stuff. All that's cool. All that is fun. It just feels like the Cardinals are going to end up being one of those 83-win teams I just mentioned, like Washington is, I think, destined to be. You look promising. You're way better than expected, where I think amongst many people, probably thought the Cardinals were destined for 100 losses. They're going to be far from that. They're at least way better than that. They just aren't ready for the playoffs yet. And that's okay, though, because it's far better outlook on St. Louis than what I thought it would be this time 2 months ago. Cleveland, Yankees and Rangers. That's what's upcoming over the next week and change for the Guardians. They did not have a great week. Cleveland didn't. As I mentioned, that 2 out of 3 games against Washington, things did not go well there. And for Cleveland, it was also a series against the Red Sox where they kind of got battered, honestly. They took a bit of a beating from the Red Sox bats, and which is unlike the Guardians to give up a bunch of runs. And they gave up 18 over 2 games, 9 apiece. It was not great. They did not look good here. A little disappointing. I would think against the Yankees, their pitching will certainly be tested against a Yankees team that is ridiculous on offense when they absolutely want to be. And it's frighteningly so, because they're playing in the Little League ballpark known as Yankee Stadium. Yep, Sacramento, you don't have the only Little League ballpark, because Yankee Stadium is a far more expensive version of yours. And it's also got some nice ways to get to it via subways. I've been there a few times. Anyway, Guardians and Yankees should be an interesting series. Chicago White Sox, Murakami is out. Taka Murakami has a hammy just like De La Cruz does, and he will not be in Minnesota. He's probably not going to come here for the Philly series over the weekend, which is unfortunate. But what is fortunate is that the Chicago team is actually cooking on offense, Murakami or otherwise. They are continuing to hit, and they had a really fun game against the Tigers. It's the one walk-off I really haven't mentioned at all or discussed or talked about that happened on Friday. So this one was actually in the 10th inning, and this happened where it was Vargas where they walk off 2-run homer because the Tigers had scored in the top half of the inning. Everything was looking good for Detroit, and both teams kind of went back and forth. It was kind of wild here. Tigers struck first early on, and then Chicago came back and got it back to even in the bottom of the 9th inning. The Tigers would get a sac fly to get the run in. Matt Vierling, former Philly, would get in and would have the go-ahead run. Everything was looking good. All the Tigers had to do was hold this down and hold this lead together. And they got ahead of Vargas at the bottom of the 10th inning and off a challenge. Everything was looking pretty good. And it turned into a walk-off bomb on the very next pitch. It was a changeup that stayed middle in, and Vargas hit it up and out. And it was Blouse's game done on the last chance that Chicago had to win that particular game. The White Sox didn't have to wait 10 innings for the other games in the series, as they promptly swept Detroit out of the building, allowing exactly 2 runs the rest of the series. Now, yes, they did go to Minnesota and lose last night. I don't recommend that, even though the Twins aren't zombie level bad. They're just normal level mid, I guess you could say. Still, this is the best that Chicago's been in a long time. And the fact that the White Sox are legitimate, kind of sort of playoff contenders, you like to see it. It's going to be them and the Guardians, it feels like, from here on in the AL Central. And I guess the question is this: can Chicago's youth movement stay around in this time of year as we get closer and closer and closer to trade deadline news and then everything else that follows it? Can Chicago stay afloat in this AL Central, which has got 2 terrible teams, a mediocre one in Minnesota, and 2 very good ones, as I've just mentioned? Tampa Bay. Baltimore swept you? Yeah, weird week for Tampa. Remember last week when I said, okay, no big deal. You got beat by Aaron Judge. That happens. And you lose a game to Baltimore the following Monday. Okay, that happens. Losing the next 2 to the Orioles, not great. Now, sure, you did win 2 games against the Angels, but you're supposed to do that. Okay, fine. And it's just, maybe it's a lull in the season for Tampa Bay. It happens. They did lose last night to the Tigers, though. That's one of those things I don't recommend either. Still, I trust Tampa Bay is going to be okay. I think they're going to be fine. Maybe it's just a lull and kind of the dog days type of thing before we get to the summer. I trust you to be okay. You'll figure it out. I believe that you can do that as you get closer to your another Floridian showdown with the Marlins over the weekend. I would imagine that over these next 5 days, you're going to get this right and probably get 4 of the next 5 games, and you'll probably be fine. New York Yankees. Bats are cooking. Yes, the Yankees went out to Sacramento and decided to go to a road game, Little League ballpark, and handle their business. Or minor league ballpark, and handle their business. And they beat up on the A's pitching, because a lot of teams should do that. And the Yankees bats look good. They look good again. They've always been pretty dangerous, but they look very competent. Sans Aaron Boone managerial decisions aside, that the Yankees are as advertised thus far, and they're continuing to do their thing. Them and the Rays, I'm looking forward to all the rest of the matchups between these 2 teams. They're separated by a game. The Yankees are down a game in this series, in this divisional race. But they've clearly separated themselves from the other 3 teams in the AL East. I'm looking forward to more Rays versus Yankees. In the meantime, between time, the Yankees have another division leader to deal with in the form of the Guardians coming up this week before they face their dreaded op to the north in Boston, where they will play against the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium and then go to Cleveland. So this is going to be a pretty fun, interesting 10 days or so, where it's 3 at-home Guardians, 3 home Red Sox, 3 at Guardians. Can the Yankees get 6 of those 9? I guess we'll see. That would be nice if they did. Milwaukee, backyard ball. That is where the Brewers are, I guess, mentally speaking. They're just fun. They're just having a lot of fun, and it seems like they are kind of in a state of, okay, I may not do it, but the next guy might. And if he doesn't do it, the third guy will. Yeah, that's kind of where the Brewers are right now. They're just having kind of loose baseball. And the next guy who could probably hit a Jacob Mizorowski fastball will be the first guy that can do so in a while, because he is the only pitcher truly close to Christopher Sanchez in the stratosphere in the month of May. He was incredible too. He actually allowed a run or two, which is that's really unfortunate on his part, but he was pretty lights out for the month as well. Just absurd stuff. These are your two Cy Young candidates, Sanchez and Mizorowski. Anyway, the backyard baseball stuff that they had over the weekend was also pretty fun. It was pretty goofy and silly. Love that video game. The video game was pretty dope. And the Brewers continued to dominate and scorch earth. They put the Cardinals in their place, and they took care of business over the weekend, and then proceeded to bludgeon the Giants last night in a very un-Brewer-like fashion by hanging 16 runs. There are weeks where the Brewers don't score 16 runs, but they did it to the Giants, which, okay, you're kind of supposed to do that. You got to double tap the zombies. Remember, always double tap the zombies. Zombieland taught us that, and various other zombie movies for that matter. Anyway, you went 2-3 against Houston in the interim between that Giants beatdown last night and the sweep of the Cardinals. In between, I should say, not in the interim. But good on you, Milwaukee, for staying afloat and keeping up with the heavyweights in the National League. One of which, unfortunately, are the Dodgers. Villains arriving. Yeah, they're back. They're here, and they are destroying worlds once again. They're beating competent teams over the heads with money, and it's rather unfortunate for everyone else. This is a brutal time to be a hater of LA sports, not just with the Dodgers beating the Phillies 2-3, but the fact that they got Myles Garrett with the Rams yesterday, it's absolutely absurd stuff. Fun fact, I was in the gym yesterday when I found out this news. I was on the exercise bike, getting 5 miles in, and then I saw the news as I was finishing, and I had to tell the guy next to me that this happened. Even he was like, whoa, this is different. I don't think anyone saw this coming, except for those who were in the know in Cleveland, I guess, after they reworked Garrett's deal. But the fact that they were able to only give up Verse and 3 picks for a team that's as all-in as possible, with Stafford and Devontae Adams getting up there in age, and the Super Bowl being in Los Angeles once again, I think we know what time it is. FTP for those picks that the Rams have. And Seattle, you might be our only hope to stop the Rams from winning another championship with Kroenke out in Los Angeles. Good luck, boys. As for in baseball terms, yeah, good luck, boys, in dealing with the Dodgers, because they're back, and they're not even the best villain in baseball right now. That honor goes to the Braves. Best red shade. They face two teams that also have red in their name, the Red Sox and the Reds. They won 4 of 6. They were as competent and as composed and as talented as they've generally been. In some of these games, they were not challenged. There was an 8-0 shutout by the Red Sox in this stretch of games. But, okay, one of these games happen from time to time. Anyway, Atlanta continues to dominate and mow everyone down. How dominant, you say? Well, their offense is Dodger good, but their pitching is also Brewers good. And that's not great for any of their opponents. It's frustrating, matter of fact. They're the second best offense in baseball, which is ahead of the Dodgers, and only behind the Nationals still. Nationals offense still holding it down. Their pitching is third in baseball in terms of runs allowed. They are behind just 2 teams that are the only 2 that have not given up 200 this year. That being the Dodgers and the Brewers, which is kind of wild. The Braves only giving up 207, which is also very good. It's actually tied with the Yankees, believe it or not. Tied with the Yankees. Fun fact about this whole pitching thing, about the offense part, the Phillies and Padres are actually 2 of the 3 worst in baseball right now. Only the Royals in between are tied with the Phillies, but somehow those are 2 of the 3 worst teams in baseball in terms of offense, in terms of scoring runs. Stunning, I know. Anyway, back to the Braves. Atlanta 316 says Ronald Acuna is an MVP candidate. That's effectively where we are right now. That's how many runs Atlanta scored, by the way. And Ronald Acuna is back to Acuna being a dominant fixture like he was in 2022 and 2023, really 23, where Acuna won MVP and was absurdly, insanely great. That's how dominant he has been. He's going on an absolute tear. He just decided to basically destroy Cincinnati. Maybe they made him try Skyline Chili. Maybe they tied him up before the series, and then he decided to just dump on all of them. It was not a good look for the Reds at all. It was pretty rough. The point of it is, Atlanta is back to their menacingly great ways, and it's horrible for all of us. It's even basketball level great, where Phil Jackson once said that You are a real championship contender if you win 40 before you lose 20. Atlanta was the only team with 40 wins. They got to 40 and 19. That's how great the Braves are. They have 23 wins on the road. They're the only team with more than 20 of those wins on the road. That's so much worse considering they've got plenty of home games in hand compared to the road ones. Yeah, Atlanta's like that, and it's terrible for all of us. If it's Dodgers, Brewers, and Braves as your 3 division winners, 2 of them got to probably face off in the NLDS. Who wins that best of 5? That'll be interesting to see. So there you have it. That is this week's MLB Power Rankings, as we are finally in the month of June. And we're starting to weed out the contenders from the pretenders. Even though those in Zombie Tier, I pretty much understood where they land and how they stand at this moment in time. Next week, there will be more of the same Power Rankings, and we'll see where everyone fits and if anyone can unseat Atlanta at the top of the charts in these rankings. The Zombie Tier will be the first stop of my next train of thought.